Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast.
Today, we are opening up the playbook on, well, one of the most critical parts of modern business strategy, how we pay people.
Exactly. We're doing a deep dive into performance-based pay models, or P4P. And this isn't just about, cutting checks. It's about aligning every single worker's effort with the core goals of the business.
Right. Our mission here is to give you a real, practical guide. We want to go beyond the buzzwords and look at how you can design a compensation system that actually drives meaningful outcomes.
A system that turns salary from just a fixed cost into a direct driver of productivity.
And this matters right now more than ever. The data from our source material is, frankly, startling. It shows that 81% of top-performing companies are using some form of P4P.
81%.
Right.
That's not a trend, that's a standard.
It's the standard. It tells you that if you want to be a high-performance organization, this isn't really optional anymore. It's a structural piece of the puzzle.
So before we get into the models, let's just make sure we're all on the same page.
Right.
What exactly is performance-based pay?
At its core, it's pretty simple. It's any system where you add to an employee's base pay when they hit clear, measurable goals that were set beforehand. It's a transparent contract, Achieve this and you get that.
The reward is earned, not just given. Okay, let's unpack that. Let's look at the actual tools, the different models you can use. The choice here has to be strategic, right?
Oh, absolutely. It has to match two things: how clear the goals are and how much teamwork you need.
Got it. So where do we start?
Well, the most familiar one is the first of 5 core models, the merit raise. This is that permanent bump in your base salary, usually after an annual review, for sustained good work.
Okay, the classic merit increase. But I have to push back a little here. The data from 2024 shows the average merit increase was only 3.5%.
That's right.
I mean, with inflation often running higher than that, is a 3.5% raise really motivating someone? Or is it just failing to keep them from falling behind?
That is a fantastic point. And it's the biggest weakness of relying only on merit raises. It stops being a motivator and becomes what we call a hygiene factor, something people just expect to stay even.
So you have to layer something on top of that.
Exactly. Which brings us to model number 2, bonuses and variable pay. These are your short-term, high-impact tools.
And when we talk bonuses, the language gets really important, especially for legal compliance, doesn't it? We have discretionary and non-discretionary.
That distinction is paramount, especially if you're operating in the U.S. A discretionary bonus is a one-off, a spot award, a holiday bonus. The amount and timing aren't guaranteed.
But non-discretionary is different.
Very different. That's pure P4P. It's tied to a formula. If the team's sales hit X, you get Y. The employee knows the target in advance.
And the critical thing for our listeners to know is that non-discretionary bonuses have to be included when you calculate overtime pay.
Precisely. If you miss that, you're looking at a serious compliance risk. It's a legal necessity, not just a strategic choice.
Okay, so moving on, let's talk about the clearest form of P4P, commission structures. Perfect for sales, right?
The gold standard for clarity. And what's really interesting here aren't the simple models, but the tiered plans.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. So you might pay a salesperson, say, 5% commission on their first $50,000 in sales, but then it steps up to 7% for everything between $50K and $80K, and then maybe 10% on anything above that.
Ah, I see the psychology there. It pushes the salesperson to get past their comfort zone to unlock that next higher paying tier.
It's powerful, but the downside can be those, lumpy paychecks. Some people prefer the stability of a higher base salary. It's not just about the total amount, it's about financial security.
That's a great point, which leads perfectly into fostering collaboration.
Yeah.
If you want to move away from individual competition, you look at shared success models.
Right, things like profit sharing and gain sharing.
What's the real difference there?
Well, profit sharing is broad. You take a slice of the entire company's profits and share it out. It's good for big picture alignment, but gain sharing is, I think, much more powerful on the ground.
How so?
Because it's tied to specific, measurable improvements that a team made. It's not about the whole company's profit. It's about the value your team created.
Okay, give us a concrete example of that.
Yeah.
How does that work in practice?
Let's imagine a manufacturing team. They figure out it costs them $500 to produce one widget. Through some smart process changes, they get that cost down to $285,
Right.
and they made 1,500 widgets that month. The gain is the savings $215 per unit times 1,500 units, a huge number. The company then shares a percentage of that specific validated saving back with the team that made it happen.
I see. It's so much more direct. It's visceral. You can see the result of your work in your paycheck.
Exactly. And that brings us to the last model, which is key, non-monetary incentives.
So not everything is about cash.
Not at all. We're talking about things like extra paid time off, learning stipends, public recognition. These things build culture and satisfaction without blowing up your fixed costs.
So the takeaway for choosing a model is what?
Match the model to employee control and goal clarity. If an employee can't directly influence an outcome, you absolutely should not pay them based on it.
That's the perfect transition, because that's the hard part, isn't it? Measurement. How do you fairly measure performance in roles that aren't just about counting widgets or sales dollars?
It's the biggest challenge, and the foundation for everything has to be the SMART framework for goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. It forces you to be concrete.
Right. So you move away from vague feedback like be a better team player?
To something trackable. So for a role like a software engineer, you don't measure lines of code. That's a terrible metric.
Because it just encourages bloat.
Right. Instead, you use a balanced set of KPIs. You could measure, say, the time it takes to deploy a new feature for speed. Then you measure the post-launch defect rate for quality. And maybe peer review scores for collaboration.
That's what the source material calls the balanced scorecard.
It's essential. It's your defense against that quantity over quality trap. If you only pay for speed, people will cut corners. The balanced scorecard forces you to look at the whole picture.
But even with great metrics, there's still the problem of human bias. Managers rating their favorites, inconsistent standards between teams, those are huge risks.
They are. And the best tool to fight that is something called a calibration meeting.
That's not that.
It's a structured meeting where managers get together with HR and they have to defend their ratings. They align their standards across the whole organization. It ensures that a top rating in one department means the same thing as a top rating in another.
So it standardizes the process. And I assume documentation is key to making it all defensible.
It's everything. You must have clear evidence standards. A performance decision can't be based on a manager's gut feeling. It has to be tied to specific documented data points. You need an audit trail.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. What are the big picture business implications here? The sources talk about massive upsides, but also real risks like burnout and unhealthy competition.
The upsides are huge, especially for keeping your best people. The data shows that 46% of employees cite salary and potential bonuses as their top reason to stay at a job.
Almost half.
P4P gives them a sense of control over their earnings, which directly impacts job satisfaction and retention. It's a powerful tool.
And it also helps you manage your total compensation budget by deciding on the pay mix, right?
Yeah.
The balance between base salary and variable pay.
The pay mix is where the real strategy comes in. For a stable, mission-critical role, like in accounting, you'd want a high base salary, maybe 70% base, 30% variable.
For stability.
Exactly. But for a high-leverage role like sales, you might flip that. You could have a 40% base and 60% variable pay, shifting the risk and the potential reward onto performance.
That makes sense. Let's talk about those guardrails, though. How do you stop P4P from creating a toxic, cutthroat culture?
The best defense is to blend your rewards. You should always combine individual incentives with team-based bonuses, like the game sharing we talked about.
So everyone is still encouraged to help each other.
Right. If part of your bonus depends on the whole team winning, you're not going to sabotage your colleagues. And then you need really tight rules on the payout itself.
What do you mean by that?
You need things like caps on payouts to protect the company if someone has a truly outlier year. You need prorating rules for new hires. And this one is critical. You need clawbacks.
Clawbacks, that sounds intense.
It is, but it's a necessary protection. It means the company can reclaim a bonus if it turns out the performance was based on, say, bad data, or if the long-term results like customer retention don't hold up. It prevents reckless short-term thinking.
This all seems to come down to transparency and trust. You have to publish the rules.
You have to. You need a simple one-page document that explains the formulas, the eligibility, the timelines. The formulas need to be transparent. Even if individual earnings are kept private, it removes the suspicion that the game is rigged.
But managing all this, tracking KPIs, calculating tiered bonuses, maintaining that audit trail, It sounds like a nightmare without the right technology.
Oh, it's impossible. This is where modern HR and performance platforms are non-negotiable. The tech automates the data capture, it standardizes the calculations, and crucially, it keeps that perfect audit trail.
Which brings us right back to the compliance issue we started with.
Absolutely. That audit trail is your proof that you're complying with wage and hour laws. It protects the company and ensures everyone is treated fairly and paid correctly.
So this has been a really deep look. It's clear that P4P isn't a simple switch you flip. It requires clear rules, fair measurement, and systems that can evolve with the business.
Exactly. And when you're thinking about success, don't just look at revenue. The real question to ask yourself is the motivational boost we're getting worth the cost of the program?
So what are the deeper metrics to track?
You should be tracking the retention rate of your top performers. Is this system keeping the people you can't afford to lose? And you should track your total compensation cost as a percentage of revenue. Is it moving in a healthy direction?
That reframes the whole conversation around enterprise value, not just payroll.
It does. And if I could leave our listeners with one final practical tip, it would be this. Start small.
Don't try to boil the ocean.
Exactly. Pilot a plan in one department, pick 3 to 5 balanced measures, automate as much as you can, prove the concept, and build trust before you try to roll it out everywhere.
That's fantastic, actionable advice. The goal here isn't complexity, it's alignment.
That's it.
Thank you for tuning in to the SmartKeys podcast for this deep dive into performance-based pay models. If you want to get into the weeds on the specific formulas and the governance we discussed, we highly encourage you to read the full source article.
You can find the link to that full source material with all the data points and implementation guides right there in the show notes for this deep dive.
And don't forget to subscribe to the SmartKeys podcast. You'll get more actionable insights on the future of work delivered straight to your feed. Until next time, stay sharp.